I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here I share legal and entertainment news from a psychological perspective. I covered the Michelle Troconis case, and she is being sentenced right now. This stream is going to be a little behind. Law and Crime has the full stream available, and I have that link down in the description. I did cover this case. Michelle Troconis, at least one of her children, gives a victim impact statement. I was listening to that, had some available time, and really just wanted to share this information. Thank you all for joining live. Hello, Jennifer. Hello, Allison. So for anybody that's watching live, welcome. For anybody that watches on replay, thank you as well. So I went back. So the judge is going to talk about the pre-sentencing report. So that's where we're starting.
To read the pre-sentence investigation report, the court is going to first indicate how it intends to proceed. The court will inquire of counsel as to whether there are any corrections to the pre-sentence investigation report, any mistakes. The court will then proceed with the state's remarks and the statements from victims. Then the defense will have its opportunity to make remarks and statements in support of the defendant, and of course the defendant's right to allocution. The court will then deliver its remarks. The session this morning will run for as long as it needs to prior to 1:30. So rather than have a recess at 1 o'clock, we'll take the recess at 1:30 and resume.
Okay, so when the court goes on recess, so I probably am not going to be able to play the sentencing part. I'll probably have to do that on Saturday. I'll have to give that update here. So we are going to get through the impact statements, and if there are any statements that are made in defense of Michelle Troconis. For anybody that's new to this case, Jennifer Doulos is a mom, and the allegation is that her husband Fotis, at the time they were separated. She was working on actively divorcing him, and they were in a bitter custody dispute over their children. The court, I think, had restricted his visitation, and just a lot was going on. Michelle was his girlfriend at the time, and the state's belief is that Michelle was involved somehow in the aftermath, that Michelle, the state believes, I think Michelle knows more than what she said. They still have not recovered Jennifer's body, and she is presumed deceased. My heart truly breaks for her kids. It's my understanding they are residing with Jennifer's mother and that their nanny. I did cover their nanny's testimony. Her testimony was very, very powerful, I thought, and just talking about just how menacing, just the dynamic that she witnessed between Fotis, and how he could quickly and easily shift between seeming nice and charismatic and then being just very menacing towards Jennifer. So
resume at 2:30 if there is an afternoon session. The court on a previous occasion indicated to counsel that it would delay ruling on certain motions until this morning. The court is going to give counsel an opportunity, a very brief opportunity.
All right, so we're going to fast forward through any motions, and we are going to skip ahead. And so the state is likely going to ask for the maximum, but we will see. So let's see where it is right here.
The trial and a lot of the details that came out on the trial. For the summary and recommendation, I don't at this time have any substantive changes or considerations with respect to the PSI as a whole, but the state will certainly be remarking on it as I go forward. But we are ready to proceed, Your Honor.
And before we do, as a housekeeping matter, there were a number of letters that the court had requested be provided to the court ahead of time. I have also taken those same letters. I believe, if my math is correct, there's 63 of them, placed them on a disc, handed that to the clerk. I'd also emailed them to the state well in advance, so they had every one of those letters. I asked that that be marked as, I don't know how if these are court exhibits, because it's something to the court. And then there was a letter, so that would, as a disc, constitute one exhibit for all 63 plus or minus letters that the court received. And there was a letter that was sent directly to the court that was then emailed to my office by the clerk by a Barbara Ruppert. And I asked that that letter be marked. I don't know if the court already did, but I asked that that also be marked as an exhibit for a court exhibit for purposes of today's sentencing.
Same as well, Your Honor. We have about 12 speakers who are going to speak to the court. They have presented letters. I have put those on a disc, provided copies to counsel, as well as on the disc is each of those speakers has picked a special photograph that is special to them regarding Jennifer Dulos. So I have that on the disc as well. I asked that that be made, however it is marked as well, and the state is ready to proceed.
So what we will do is, for the defense disc, we'll designate it as defense sentencing A.
And I'm old enough, so Sarah, I missed it. If they said floppy disk, I totally missed it. But yes. And so I did just want to comment publicly. So if the Gregor verdict comes in, because I dedicate this to the to the Jennifer Dulos, because they're going to be victim impact statements. So I don't want to interrupt those. But I plan to cover the Gregor verdict, and if one comes back today, and then also Chad Daybell and Ali Abulaban. I plan to do verdicts tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. All right. I will mention it. So like if we see something come out during this time, I'll definitely mention it. But I plan to, and so Daybell, he's already been found guilty, but they're doing the sentencing part today to see if he's going to get the death penalty or not. That's my understanding. The jury, they're in the death penalty phase for his case. Ooh, okay, I muted it. That's not good. There we go.
For the individual letter, defense sentencing A1. For the prosecution sentencing 1. You may proceed, Attorney Manning.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I just may have one moment. Your Honor, Michelle Troconis stands before this court after being found guilty by a jury of her peers to the charge of conspiracy to commit murder of Jennifer Dulos, tampering and conspiracy to commit tampering for disposing of evidence in Hartford on May 24th, 2019, and tampering and the conspiracy to commit tampering for destroying evidence in the Toyota Tacoma on May 29, 2019 at Russell Speeders in Avon. She was found guilty by a jury.
Somebody is typing in the background. That's not me. Okay, so somebody is typing. If y'all hear any other noises in the background, somebody's typing.
Of her peers after trial, as well as hindering prosecution. Before I go into the state's remarks and recommendation, I'm going to ask the court to hear from the people who are most devastated by the defendant's selfish, manipulative, and cruel actions, by her agreement to murder Jennifer Dulos, by her assistance in covering it up, and by her failure to accept any responsibility or show any remorse. I'd ask the court to hear from Jennifer Dulos's mother, sister, 5 children, and the friends who have kept Jennifer's spirit alive despite the cruelty of Michelle Troconis. I'd ask Your Honor first to hear from Jennifer's mother, Gloria Farber. If I may just have one moment.
I'm gonna fast forward. And the paper turning. That's nice.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Judge Randolph, for giving me the opportunity to speak about my daughter, Jennifer Rebecca Doulos. When Jennifer did not answer calls, texts, did not go to a scheduled doctor's appointment on May 24th, 2019, the day Jennifer disappeared, I knew something terrible had happened. When I learned about how she died, my thoughts turned to my wonderful daughter, Jennifer, who only wanted to give and to get love and to be a loving mother.
Yeah.
She lived in fear for her life and fear that her husband might abduct her children. I thought of how to help my grandchildren when they learned how their mother died. How could I help them and myself cope with the unthinkable? My strength came from needing to cope. My purpose was clear: to be there for my grandchildren and for my daughter, Melissa. My daughter and Jennifer's loyal friends thought it was important to honor Jennifer. We organized a ceremony at Temple Emmanuel in November of 2019, inviting people near and dear to her, family and friends. Knowing songs that Jennifer loved, we asked a pianist and a woman singer to sing her favorite songs. The chief rabbi spoke, as well as several other people. Then we had a reception at the Harmony Club, where we had brunch and more music, and I recited the words of a song that inspired my husband and I to find the right name for Jennifer. It starts, Jenny Rebecca, 4 days old. How do you like the world so far? It is a song that was written by Carol Hall. She sent me the lyrics with a note saying, for your Jenny Rebecca. Due to Jennifer's character, she had the ability to connect with a select group of friends to whom she confided and empathized with if they had any issues. These are the friends who have remained with the children, sharing, taking care of their health, education, and encouraging their athletic interests. They're available to hug and love them, and when needed, disciplining them as their mother would have wanted. They have planned vacations, celebrated their birthdays and name days, providing, when they are couples, male role models who interact with the children as if they were their own sons and daughters. In this way, creating blended families by including their children. One being widowed and having met Jennifer in graduate school is able to mentor the children on any subject. Run with one of the boys who loves running. She has become our family spokesperson. Jennifer's sister, their aunt, loves them deeply and provides a connection to their mother. We honor Jennifer by creating a memorial stone near her father's gravesite. The stone is a replica of her father's gravestone. Jennifer had always wanted to be buried near her father. Now we had a memorial stone where the family and close friends gathered. I asked a rabbi from the temple about my family to preside. she recited copy and asked if anyone wanted to talk about Jennifer. Her sister spoke eloquently, as well as many of the other participants. For years, we searched for her remains, tracking down every lead. This search continues. Every year, we honor Jennifer on her birthday, September 27th, 1968. On that day in September, her children, her sister, her friends, and I crossed the street from my apartment and we walked to Central Park, carrying purple balloons, Jennifer's favorite color. We sit on benches and using markers, we write messages to her. Then we let the balloons go and watch as the wind lets them float to the sky. We watch them until the balloons disappear. Jennifer filled her children with love, wisdom, and humor. Jennifer would have been very proud of her children's accomplishments. They will always have their memories of her, as do I. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was very sweet. And I'm glad that her mom, Jennifer's mom, spoke about her legacy and how her loss, how it's impacted her and the family. Phoenix asked a phenomenal question. Anyone that is new to this case. So Michelle Troconis was dating Jennifer's. They were separated, and but Jennifer's, they weren't legally divorced, but she had moved. He was escalating, and it's my understanding he had kind of made threats. He was one where he put on a show in front of other people, but one-on-one, it's my understanding that he was harmful towards Jennifer. And he was one that would not allow her to move on with the children. And he wanted more visitation. He violated the rules of the court. He did not respect the court at all. And he unalived himself before his court date. And Michelle never turned on him, even in his death, because there is video of her with him on the day that Jennifer disappeared. And that she likely was aware that something was wrong and that something was happening. And that is what the prosecution is kind of thinking. And there is a interview where he denies unaliving his wife. He comes off very, very narcissistic and very antisocial. He did not believe that people should be able to tell him what to do. And it's very, very, very difficult. Thank you, Sarah, for preparing us for what's next. I heard a part. I don't know if it was this impact statement. So just prepare yourself. So one of the children is going to be asked to slow down because Michelle Troconis, I think is her, I forget what her native language is, but she has an interpreter and they have to ask him to slow down. I was over in Law and Crimes and people were so upset, but they had to ask him to slow down so that the interpreter could keep up. She's wearing headphones and that's for the interpretation. I'm going to fast forward to him. They are not going to show the net. I don't
Melissa,
I'm going to go back.
Next, I would ask the court to hear from Melissa Farber. Melissa is Jennifer's sister.
Okay.
Good morning, Judge.
Morning.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about my sister, Jennifer Barber Dulos. On Christmas Day of 2018, my mother and I were visiting Jennifer and her 5 children. When her children were out of the room, Jennifer mentioned that Michelle and Fotis were engaging in some type of fraud. She was extremely concerned about this. At 8:45 on the morning of May 24th, 2019, I awoke with a startle. I did not realize at this time that my sister Jennifer's life was ending. But there was something in me that was shaken to the core. At 10:04 a.m., I sent Jennifer a text in which I told her about my recent trip to Florida to visit our Uncle Jerry. In that same text, I wished her a happy Memorial Day weekend, but I never received a response. By the end of the day, my sister had become a missing person. I loved Jennifer since the day she was born. I remember holding her when she got home from the hospital. I was so proud to have such a beautiful and precious baby sister. And as the years went by, my pride in Jennifer grew stronger. She grew up to be a talented writer and a beautiful person. I miss Jennifer's intelligence, her soft, sweet voice, and the sound of her laughter. There are really no words to adequately express what losing my sister Jennifer has meant to me. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I would ask the court to hear from Patrice. Patrice was only 13 years old the day his mother was murdered.
And so the one on the left is Jennifer, and I wonder if that's her sister. I'm not sure who the individual on the right is, but the individual on the left is Jennifer. And that's a picture of Patrice. I'm thinking when.
Good morning, Your Honor. I am Jennifer's eldest son. The defendant's actions in conspiring to murder my mother have had irreparable effects on my life, many that I'm still figuring out each and every day. I've been left with a hole inside of me that I know I will never be able to fill. Losing my mother tore me from the joyful innocence of my youth and made me confront the horrors of the world at an early age.
Sorry, the interpreter will have to ask the gentleman just speak a little slow.
They had to do it.
My mother was everything to me. But during the divorce, I became very bitter with everyone around me, especially Mom, because she was always trying to help me. This meant that I hurt the person closest to me because I didn't know how else to voice my pain. The defendant's actions mean that I will never be able to tell my mom how sorry I am for not being a better son when she needed me. I will never be.
Let's all take a breath. My heart breaks for him, and I hope that he knows his response was totally normal. It was totally normal. Hopefully I'm getting that pinwheel. Hopefully I don't lose you all. If I do, y'all know I just have to reset real quick. Etc. All right, I might have to reset. Sorry about that, y'all. Sometimes I'm at my work office and I don't have my normal hookup. I wanted to share this today, and so let's get back into his statement.
Books, film.
What I was saying is just that I hope that he knows that his response was completely normal. He was just a normal kid that was reacting a way that any child would. It's very normal for in the middle of a custody dispute, because I think because Fotis was having an affair before they were officially separated. I'll say that again. So Fotis was having an affair before they officially separated. And I think it's really Jennifer that wanted to leave him. And Jennifer came from money. So Jennifer, I think, was more financially stable. She did not need Fotis's money. And I think she had her own, like she was well off all by herself. And I think Fotis actually lost some of his connections. I think Fotis really, he lost more. And if they were legally divorced, he was going to lose more than she was. Yes. And I think that's why the sister mentioned that she thought there was that Jennifer thought there was some type of fraud happening between Fotis and Jennifer. All right, so I'm going to go back to his statement where he's just talking about how important his mother was to him. And I've closed some of the other windows, so hopefully I shouldn't have that. And let me come off my Wi-Fi here. Hopefully that should help the stream a little bit. All right, let's keep going with his statement. Let's breathe, drink your water. This is going to be tough.
To me. But during the divorce, I became very bitter with everyone around me, especially Mom, because she was always trying to help me. This meant that I hurt the person closest to me because I didn't know how else to voice my pain. The defendant's actions mean that I will never be able to tell my mom how sorry I am for not being a better son when she needed me. I will never be able to tell Mom how proud of her courage I am, most importantly, how much I love her. This fact haunts me every day. There are feelings and thoughts that I will never be able to express again because my mom was the key to those parts of me.
Aww.
I'm upset that I will never know the man I could have become if my mom was still here to guide me. She was my hero, and now I often feel lost without her comforting smile and her meaningful discussions. I wish I could share my victories with her, but I can't because she is not here anymore. I wish I knew she was in the stands watching me play. I wish I could come home and show her my grades and feel the genuine pride in me that I only got from her. I wish we could sit for hours and discuss everything there is to talk about. I wish she could see me mature from a boy into a young man. I wish I could hug Mom again, but I can't now. Your Honor, I understand that sitting over there is a mother with a child and a family who love her. My mom once had that.
Yes.
We once had that, and she helped destroy it. That woman appeals to our sympathy under the guise of being a mother. She has desecrated the meaning of that word for me. This statement is primarily about my loss, but I also want to highlight my mom's exceptional nature. The number of people who have rallied around us is a testament to the devotion she inspired in those close to her. I want to end with the lesson my mom taught me. Leave everything the same or better than you found it. Michelle Troconis, you did the opposite. You should be punished. Thank you.
So proud of him. That took so much strength and courage.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to ask the court now to hear from Kiki Davis. Ms. Davis was a close friend of Jennifer's, her lifelong friend.
I agree, Sarah. I agree. Oh, wow. In Greek, Petros means rock. Strong. He's so strong. Wow.
Your Honor, I appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts and experience regarding the loss of Jennifer Doulos. I hope the photos here today will give you a visual sense of her kindness, gentle nature, humor, and genuine love for her family and friends. And our words will reach deep and convey our loss. In 1973, I started first grade in Brooklyn and was very fortunate to be in class with Jennifer. She and I became best friends, which over the next 46 years even grew closer to a sisterhood. When Jennifer filed for divorce and was fighting for custody of her children, our friendship grew even deeper. I reminded her often that we were family and that I'd always be there for her. On one occasion, she asked if she could include me and her children as her children's guardian in her will. At that time, I thought it was a smart, practical decision, and of course promised to care and love for them as my own. I'm grateful we had this conversation as it has guided me through the years together. The loss of Jennifer has greatly impacted my and my family's lives. We went from 5 to 10 in our hearts, and even larger if you include Lauren, Laurel, Carrie, Caroline, Melissa, and Gloria. We have learned our hearts are capable of so much love. It has also been a real test to my family's strength. I've been an absent mother to my own children and spouse to my husband, especially during the years that I divided my time living 2 weeks per month in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the other 2 weeks in Brooklyn with Jennifer's children. The heartbreak and guilt of going back and forth has been one of the hardest tests I have ever endured. But that was a choice I made and not entirely something Michelle Troconis did to me. However, Michelle Troconis' actions, and perhaps lack of actions, greatly impacted me daily, as I am now the closest person to a mother these 5 may ever have again. My friend Jennifer should be in my shoes hugging her children each morning. My friend should be in my place hearing them laugh or cry. My friend should be by her children's side as they do their homework, get ready for bed, or wish to talk about friends. My friend should be here to teach her family history, and her young years. My friend should be here singing songs, watching their sports games, and doing puzzles with her children. My friend should be troubleshooting and agonizing over colleges, ACTs, and summer jobs. Her children should feel the safety of her hug. They should know her incredible patience and love for listening. They should hear the sound of her wonderful, contagious laugh. They should experience the innate wisdom she holds about the right course for their future. They should feel, not remember, her unconditional love. Over the past 5 years, I have done my best to be a mother to Patrice, Theodore, Christian, Constantine, and Noel, while always carrying the deep sadness that it should be Jennifer, not me, seeing and being present in her children's lives. Michelle Troconis, you took this from them. Thank you.
Your Honor, I'd ask you to hear.
And that's one of the hardest decisions a parent ever has to make, is deciding if anything happens to me or my partner, who would be the one that I would want to step in for me. And I'm thankful and grateful that I've had those difficult conversations with family. My child, I think this year was the first year he came and said, like, what happens if something happens to you and daddy? And I was able to talk through our plan with him, and he liked it. So the person that we've identified that he would live with, he's comfortable with that. Not every person has to go through that with their child. Mine asked, and so we talked about it, and we hope to never have to use that plan. And every life event, so graduation from high school, completing 8th grade, getting, like, every milestone, weddings, every milestone that these children have, they're gonna remember that their mother was taken from them, and it was at the hands of their father. And that brings on a complex grief that is different from just a parent passing from cancer or from some other way. I've worked with individuals that have been impacted by the opioid crisis or by substance overdoses, and it can be really, really, it can be a hard road. And I just going back to Petros's comments about being mad at his mom. I'm sure his mom knew that she was doing what was best and that it was she probably understood his feelings. And I hope that he knows that. I hope he remembers just how much that she loves and cares about him. But all right, let's keep going.
You're next from Theodore. Theodore is Jennifer's son, and he was 13 when his mother was taken from him.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
My mother was the best mom I could ever ask for. She loved me and my siblings unconditionally. She was the brightest light, a shining star, the most unselfish person you would have ever met. At the time, I did not really know all that she was doing. But looking back at it, it was truly incredible. Taking care of 5 young children, dealing with divorce court, checking in on her mother, and trying to stand tall against the evil working to bring her down.
His dad.
My life now is nothing like it used to be. I no longer have my mother, my hero. I'll never talk to her again. I'll never do my homework with her again. I'll never ask her for advice again. I'll never go on an errand with her again. She will never see me graduate high school. She will never see me graduate college. She'll never see me get married. These are just a few things, and they go for my 4 siblings as well. Michelle, I will speak to you in English because that's the language we've always communicated in. Michelle, imagine this. You wake up tomorrow and your daughter is gone and you will never see her again. Gloria Farber lived this nightmare on May 24th, 2019. What if it was not your daughter, but your sister Daniela, gone without a trace? Melissa Farber went through this on May 24th, 2019. What about if you woke up tomorrow and your dear friend Petu was gone and you never see her again? Kiki, Laurel, Carrie, Caroline, and Lauren, to name a few, experienced that terror on May 24th, 2019. What if you woke up to the news that you would never see your mother again? My 4 siblings and I experienced that life-crushing loss on May 24th, 2019. 5 kids lost their mother. Michelle, you caused this damage. On May 24th, 2019, you not only knew about, but conspired to murder a daughter, sister, friend, and mother of 5 kids.
Yep.
That day, you took away 5 children's source of comfort, our protector. You showed no remorse, and you have yet to show any to this day. You have sympathy only for yourself when you realize you will be punished.
Exactly.
You expected to get away with it because you believe you are above the law. You thought nobody would suspect you and that all suspicion would fall on my dad.
Especially after he died.
Unfortunately, you underestimated law enforcement and the justice system in our country that day and the days and months following. You were caught red-handed and you're shocked. You will spend the next however many years behind bars, and this will give you the time to think about what you have done. Every day, you will wake up in a small cell with not much to do. You will have many years to contemplate what you know you have done. If you have just the least bit of humanity, I suggest you let all of us know exactly what happened that day and where my mother is.
Exactly.
Do the right thing, Michelle. Admit to your family what you did instead of trying to keep their family pride. Ephesians 4:25. Therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are all members of one body. I will never forgive you for what you have done, and until you give us more answers, you will be considered evil, violent, and most definitely a coward. An appropriate sentence, Your Honor, would be 50 years, 10 years for each child who lost their mother that day. May my mother rest in peace. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I'd ask Your Honor next to hear from Laurel Watts.
So, because I think the children had been around her before. The children, because I think that was a part of the custody issue, was Jennifer didn't want her around. And Michelle Troconis does have a daughter. and I don't know how, and it doesn't matter. Like, I don't, like, her daughter has nothing to do with any of this. But the fact that he brought up, imagine like what we're going through, because this is the most emotion to me from what I've seen. I did not watch the entire trial. It was a long trial too. I did not watch every bit of it. I did cover the nanny's testimony, and I think I might have covered a few other things, but this was so hard. And so Sarah mentioned that Michelle Troconis's daughter is 19 years old. Wow.
Laurel has been Jennifer's friend since childhood and is now a caregiver to her children.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Morning.
This is my friend Jenny at 20 on my roof in Brooklyn, the summer we lived together. Jenny Farber was my friend for 46 years, from when we were 4 to when we were 50, from community nursery school to middle school math class to Brown University. You have to be pretty extraordinary to inspire friendship that evergreen. She was. All the adjectives: deep, beautiful, genius, outrageous, gentle, and wise can't even come close. We lived together, traveled together, and we held each other's babies when they were born. And I am lonely for Jennifer every day. My conversation with her lasted for 46 years. It ended on May 24th, 2019, forever silenced. I have her last voicemail. I have her last text saved on my phone. I have no other friend who knew me at 4 and at 12 and at 20 and at 50. The Jennifer that knew me at all those ages is gone. And all those Jennys stretching back in time exist only in my memory. I can't see them in her face. Sometimes I can glimpse them in her children's expressions, hear their laugh in theirs. On March 1st, 2024, Michelle Troconis was convicted of conspiring to murder Jennifer Farber-Dulos. By killing Jennifer, Troconis cut off a future for Jennifer and for us. So much of this trial has been about what was: a failed relationship, divorce, court orders. But every time that I was with Jennifer and her children, she was deeply, truly content. She was always holding one kid's hand, had another in her lap, was making a crazy joke with 2 of them. She delighted in them wholly. The most relaxed, beautiful, and fulfilled I have seen her in all my years of friendship with her was with them. That should have continued, growing and changing and evolving. But because of Michelle Troconis, Jennifer's kids never got that future with her. The week before she was killed, Jenny called me. She was feeling hopeful about the future, that there was light at the end of the divorce tunnel. I said, we're going to have so much fun. You're going to find someone to love who loves you. You're going to be free. But because Michelle Troconis, Jennifer never got that future. And I never got that time with her. By killing Jennifer, Michelle Troconis shattered Jennifer's family. I have spent every day for the past 5 years numb with grief and raging with anger, working with these extraordinary people to piece this family together. We are a patched, wobbling, defiant, and loving thing. At the same time, I have struggled to protect my family from the fallout and the grief, my neglect, and my anger. I've asked everything of my husband, my children, and my aging parents, and I will keep asking it of them because our project is never going to end. By killing Jennifer, Troconis left 5 children without a mother. I witness that loss every day. I take solace in Jennifer's children, Christian and Constantine, Patrice and Noelle and Theodore, because they are part of her and they are now a part of me, like she was a part of me. But every act of mothering them, hair brushed, hands held, secrets kept, fights, worry, and pride is bittersweet. All joy is mediated. Because every moment that's good and every moment that's bad, Jennifer desperately wanted. It should be her visiting colleges with Theodore, lazing in bed with Christian, cheering at Noelle's volleyball game. It should be her wrestling with Petrus's ACTs and laughing at Constantine's newspaper article, not me. But Jenny's not here. Because Troconis helped destroy evidence and lied to the police, Fotis Doulos remained at large over 9 months following the murder of Jennifer, from May 2019 to January 2020. That's May, all of June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. We lived in a state of fear that we would lose the kids to him and that they would be hurt. Hours after the murder.
Because if he did this to his wife at the time, but they were separated, what's to stop him from doing anything to the children? And he did once he was arrested and once it looked like he took his own life. And so, like, he could have done something. And so that fear that they were in, that fear is real. He really could have done something to the children, to anybody else. And as a child, like, that has to be so scary, living in fear of your father and pretty much assuming, because I think they knew that somehow he was involved, but they had to go for the evidence to put everything together. Wow.
The murder, Doulos demanded we return the kids to him. 2 days after the murder, he was raging in our lobby. Even after he was arrested, the police warned us that he would kidnap the kids or enact some violent revenge on us for taking care of them. I did the calculations. How long did we have from when the ankle bracelet alarm went off until he arrived on our doorstep? 1 hour? Maybe? The kids were accompanied everywhere by armed security guard for 9 months, and I was never not on alert. Because Troconis helped destroy evidence and lied to the police, Jennifer's body has never been found. I could not mourn Jennifer openly because she was missing. I could not answer the kids' questions. Where is she? I gave a eulogy at a memorial without a body.
Because Fotis kind of made it look like she just disappeared and just ran off. And that's not the person she was. She would have never abandoned her children. And I believe they found blood because he made mistakes. Criminals always make mistakes. And this investigation, it took time, but they ended up finding evidence because the nanny knew she had just put a certain number of paper towels in the pantry. The nanny remembered, like, and there were certain things that were off in the garage and in the house because Jennifer did have him banned from coming into the house because when he came for visitation, he had to visit with the kids outside. He wasn't allowed to come into the house. And I believe they found his fingerprint on something that was inside the house, and that should have never that shouldn't have happened because he had been out of the house for a period of time. That's my memory of the evidence. Please correct me in the chat if I'm wrong.
Her mother put a headstone over an empty grave.
I thought so.
Because Troconis assisted Doulos in the disposal of Jennifer's body, all we do have is a bloody bra and a shirt stiff with Jennifer's blood, sliced up the center. And all of the horror engendered by these, our only artifacts. That's what the kids have left of their beautiful, gentle mother. And that's what I have left of my friend. In the instructions explaining the scope of the victim's statements, we are invited to give our opinion as to what should happen to the defendant. In my opinion, Michelle Troconis deserves the maximum sentence available under the law.
Agreed.
1, your cruelty is stunning, and therefore you deserve a sentence at the upper limit of the range. These 5 children were not an abstraction. They were not your boyfriend's kids, a photograph on a desk. You skied with them, you lived with them, you fed them, you took them in. Your child, Nicole, is the same age as Patrice and Theodore. She is a daughter, like Christiane and Noelle. How could you, as a mother, knowing what that means, knowing what that bond is, how important that is for Nicole, choose to kill the mother of these children you claim to love? You must have known what the outcome would be, the devastation, but you did it anyway. Killing Jennifer.
I never understood because Fotis moved on with another woman after Michelle. Like Fotis moved on with somebody else. Like Fotis is her ex. Why would she protect him? Why in the world? And that's, I think, why somebody asked me to cover this case when I did my other video on this, of like, why would Michelle still be protecting him? And I don't know if she's kind of protecting herself, if she's holding on, because Jennifer, she's never been found. She's presumed deceased. And Michelle's trying to say, I know nothing. I didn't know Fotis was running these errands. I'm completely innocent. I didn't know anything. To me, she's only protecting herself and not giving those kids, Jennifer's family, she's not giving them closure. So hard.
Demonstrates a capacity for cruelty that is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Or that you are incapable of human feeling. That you are unable to conceive of these children as anything other than things to be acquired.
Exactly.
Your greed is engulfing, and therefore you deserve a sentence at the upper limit of the range. You claim you didn't know Jennifer, but you coveted her life, and you effectively took it for your own. First, you took Jennifer's husband. Whatever the state of their relationship, they were married.
They were.
Then you took Jennifer's home, moving yourself Miami into Fort Jefferson, into Jennifer's bed. You moved Nicole into one of the kids' bedrooms. You enrolled Nicole at the school where Jennifer had 5 children, friends, a community. You tried to take Jennifer's children. By erasing Jennifer, you hoped to get custody, becoming what you and Fotis prematurely claimed to be, a married couple with 6 children. You cold-bloodedly planned, executed, and covered up Jennifer's murder, and therefore you deserve to be sentenced at the upper limit of the range. This killing was not an accident. You did not lose control. You helped plan every complex step, minute by minute. You drifted around that house, fiddling with Fotis's phone, providing him with an alibi, all the while knowing he was in New Canaan, snuffing out Jennifer's life. You were intimate with him against the door of the Tacoma, bloody seats and all. You sat in the Raptor chewing gum and texting while he disposed of bags of bloody evidence. That is the definition of cold-blooded.
I didn't know that.
Your Honor, I believe any and all sentences should be served consecutively. There are no mitigating factors. This woman is sophisticated. She is educated. She's an independent person. She was not swayed by Fotis. I knew him 4 years, much longer than she did. And he was no Svengali. He had no special powers. She has shown no remorse. She's had many opportunities over the past 5 years to help or show compassion, and she never has. Finally, to the degree time in prison provides retribution for these crimes, she deserves to be sentenced at the upper limit of the range. Troconis' daughter, Nicole, was 12 when Troconis conspired to kill Jennifer. In the past 5 years, Troconis has raised her daughter into young adulthood.
Yeah.
In Connecticut, Miami, and Colorado. Troconis has been available to her mother, spent time with her sister and her friends. Jennifer will not raise her children past May 24th, 2019. Jennifer will never take care of her mother or sister. Jennifer will never spend time with us, her friends. Jennifer's sentence is forever.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask the court to hear next from Christiane. Christiane is Jennifer's daughter. She was 10 the day her mother was murdered.
That last statement was very
Good
powerful.
morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
The first time I met Michelle, we were water skiing in Miami. I'd heard that she was my dad's friend, and that was all I ever thought was relevant to know. The next time she came into my life was when we left Farmington with my mom. I don't remember it very well, but I didn't know we were leaving Fort Jefferson for good. When my mom told us we were going to New York, I expected just another visit to my grandma's house. And the pictures of the house we were moving into began to be shown, and talk of dad's cheating slipped from adult mouths and spread to me. I was confused. My dad, the person who I looked up to, was doing something awful, and it was with Michelle. Michelle, the woman I had not given a thought to since I had last seen her. Our lives completely changed from then on. We were living in New Canaan and getting enrolled in New Canaan Country School. I remember talking to my dad on one of our visits. I asked him something like, "Why did you cheat on Mom? I thought you said cheating was bad." He answered, "When you really love somebody, sometimes you can't wait." It occurred to me then that the person Dad really loved was no longer my mom. It was Michelle. Michelle, the one who was moving into my house, sleeping on my mom's side of the bed. It occurred to me then.
Who says that to a child? Who says that to a child? Who says that to a child? That is the definition of enmeshment. That was a boundary that should not have been crossed. He should have never said, when you love somebody, you just can't wait. What? No, that is not what you tell a 10. Like, she was 9 or 10 at the time. That is not okay. That is not okay. All right, question. Who do you think wanted to get rid of Jennifer the most? So I think Fotis benefited the most. I think Michelle wanted, and this is just my thoughts, I don't know this for sure. I agree with the last statement that Michelle wanted Jennifer's life. I think Fotis did think that with Jennifer not being there, that he would automatically be given the children. I think he thought that he was smart enough. So he distributed evidence across, was it states, or like it was like he went far to get rid of evidence. Did he go to New Jersey? I could be wrong. Was it New Jersey? Because they had cameras that they had street cameras that caught him throwing stuff in trash cans and like in multiple different spots. And I think he thought he was going to get away with it. And I don't know how much Michelle really knew, but I think Fotis would have bragged about what he did. Connecticut, thank you. Yeah, so he went to Connecticut, thank you. And he spread stuff like different places. I think to this day, Jennifer still has not been recovered. And so I think he thought that he was going to get away with it. I think some of this is her being upset for being found guilty. I don't think she thought she was going to be found guilty, because most of the evidence, a lot of what was presented was about Fotis and not necessarily about her, but she's charged with conspiracy to commit. And so, like, yeah. And she was there as he's disposing of evidence. She lied and said that he was with her when he was at, like, there's too much. There's too much. Yes. All right, let's keep going. I'm gonna cover some of the Daybell stuff tomorrow. because I want to cover that with the verdict as well. I am going to continue with her daughter's statement. I'm going to back it up just a little bit.
Michelle, the one who was moving into my house, sleeping on my mom's side of the bed. It occurred to me then that this affair was why my mom took us and left, why she cried at night, and why we were no longer a family. From then on, Michelle was a part of my life with my dad. Later on, my dad told us that Michelle was not allowed to be around us anymore, and that if we wanted to keep seeing her, we could not tell Mom that Michelle was at our visits. I cared, almost more than anything, about keeping my dad happy and proud. So when my mom asked me if Michelle was at our visits, I lied. I stood in her bathroom, just my mom and me, looked at her and said, no, she's not at our visits. Not because I wanted to keep seeing Michelle, but because I knew Dad wanted to. Mom found out that we lied, and soon Dad's visits became shorter and shorter until it was once a week with the supervisor. Michelle's presence in our lives, even before May 24th, was overwhelming and invasive. I lied for her. I was told to trust her. I switched bedrooms so that she and her daughter could move in, all while seeing the effects this had on my own family. On May 24th, 2019, I went to my friend's house after school while my siblings went to New York. I was told I had to sleep at that friend's house because something was happening, but nobody told me what. That night, I called my mom and she did not answer. On the same day, my dad, with the help of Michelle Troconis, murdered my mom. And even though Michelle may not have been holding the weapon, I truly believe that she had a lot more to do with everything than she's letting on.
I agree.
Michelle Troconis, to me, is the reason I feel completely lost and alone on nights when I cannot sleep. She's the reason why I've blocked out my childhood, and that day so much I can barely remember it. She's the reason kids at school look at me with pity, the reason my teachers say guardians and not parents, the reason I've had to sit and watch as the people who care for me break down, the reason my siblings move through life with a huge piece of them lost. She's the reason I've had to sit on the bathroom floor with my little sister and try my best to comfort her. She's the reason I had to visit my dad in the hospital, knowing what he did and knowing he chose to leave us. She's the reason I did not get to visit my mom in any sort of way before she died and have no closure in her death. She's the reason I no longer feel I have a real beginning, a home to always come back to, parents I will always belong to. She's the reason words mom and dad spark nothing but a hazy memory. The reason those words will never again represent the person who holds me in their arms as I cry about some unimportant temporary problem. The person I can casually go to lunch with and talk about all the gossip and trauma with. The person who comes to my sports games and cheers me on. The person who picks me up from school. Mom and dad are words that only bring trauma and grief. I will never again share those simple moments that mean everything. Now, the only time I can feel my mom's presence is through memories. I listen to my grandma tell me about my mom when she was my age. Her friends share stories of her life. All of this is bittersweet. I hold on to these moments of her life, knowing it should be her telling me these stories.
Yeah.
I read her own writings where she talks about motherhood and of the future she never got to experience. Our teenage moments that she predicts she never got to live through. And now I'm coming to a point in my life when I'm starting to understand the full person she was. I only knew her as my mom. I'm now discovering who she was as a child, a teenager, a young adult by myself. She should be sitting here and doing it alongside me. Michelle Troconis is the reason I've had to wake up every single day since May 24th, 2019, and ignore the first 10 years of my life because I cannot even begin to process everything. For that and everything else I've said, Michelle deserves a maximum time in jail. Thank you.
Thank you.
So powerful.
Next, I'd ask the court to hear from Lauren Almeida. Lauren is the nanny.
And I feel like a part of Michelle, and I don't know Michelle's tears, okay? I'm sitting back and watching, and it seems like she's crying like, how could you think I was involved? Like it's, I don't know. Like this is a difficult one, especially with her being emotionless through a lot of the trial and seeming kind of aloof and disconnected. And now this. And so Lauren is a powerhouse. She is the nanny. She gave very powerful testimony to me, and that's why I covered it in my other video.
Nanny to Jennifer's children and was Jennifer's friend.
Yeah.
Your Honor, thank you for letting me speak today. This is a photo of Jennifer on her 50th birthday. We all celebrated together. It's also her last birthday that we all celebrated together. I first met Jennifer in 2012 when she had 5 small kids and I was 21 in my senior year of college. I started babysitting for Jennifer once a week, but then that grew to seeing Jennifer and her kids almost 6 days a week. From the beginning, I was never just their nanny. To be inside someone's home is such an intimate experience, one that has many ups and many downs. But right away, Jennifer opened up her home to me and made me part of their family. We were a duo right away. She trusted me and I trusted her. It was Jennifer I went to when anything happened in my life, when I needed direction or someone to just vent to. Jennifer always had my best interest at heart and gave me a space to be heard. She made me laugh. She made me think about my future, and she provided me with opportunities I never thought I'd have. Most importantly, she loved me, and I loved her and her family. Through this experience, I've gained people in my life that were Jennifer's closest friends and are now my chosen family. Women who are teaching me how to be a mother, how to let things go, how to just live and love. They have all taken some place of what Jennifer was to me, even though that hole can never be filled. There's a piece of Jennifer in all of them. I hear Jennifer's voice in Kiki's, her intelligence in Carrie, her force with Laurel, and her wittiness in Caroline. Seeing Melissa and Gloria, I see Jennifer in their eyes and smiles. While I've gained this chosen family, it shouldn't be like this.
Yep.
It should be Jennifer sitting at the table helping with homework. It should be Jennifer attending sports events. It should be Jennifer taking them on college tours. It should be Jennifer's bed they run into at night. It should be Jennifer giving them advice on friendships. It should be Jennifer that they have to console them. It should be Jennifer to see them at their sad times and at their happiest. And you, Michelle, you have helped take away all of this. You took their mother and you took my friend. The actions of Michelle Troconis have greatly affected my life and continue to affect my life. The day Jennifer went missing was a day I started to fear not only for my life, but the life of Jennifer's 5 children. And this was directly because of what Michelle and Fotis decided to do on May 24th, 2019. I no longer slept. I no longer could leave the apartment without running to my car in fear that someone would come after me.
Yeah.
I could no longer enter my home in Connecticut without a police officer because I was afraid of Michelle and Fotis being on the other side waiting for me. We didn't leave the kids alone because we were certain Michelle and Fotis would try and take them. We had armed bodyguards escort us anywhere we went because we lived in fear 24/7. I had nightmares so bad, I woke up in tears shaking, unable to let go of the thought of Michelle and Fotis taking these kids and doing something unthinkable, because the unthinkable had already happened. It has been proven that Michelle conspired with Fotis to kill, in the most gruesome way, a mother of 5 kids, a mother and my friend. May 24th, 2019 was the day Jennifer was murdered by Fotis and Michelle. And that was the day I decided I wouldn't leave those kids until she was found. It's been 5 years and I still haven't left their side. I had a relationship, upcoming career, family, friends. My whole life was in Connecticut. I left all that to help Gloria and Jennifer's close friends to care for these kids.
Yeah.
My relationship ended. I lost the place I called home. I've lost friends and time with my family. I had to rethink what my life would be like now that I had 5 kids to help look after. These kids have become my whole world, and they've taught me what unconditional love is. But because of what Michelle has done, my life has become something unexpected. I put my own goals in life on hold. My desire to have my own children has been paused. I've also witnessed what losing both parents have done to these kids. Tears, fear, sadness, because they no longer have parents to watch them grow up, watch them graduate, help them learn from mistakes, enter relationships, and share memories of their childhood. The feeling we all feel, knowing we have our parents in this world that love us unconditionally, no matter what we do. The 5 of them lost that. And while the kids are surrounded by unconditional love, this feeling of safety and security for them is gone. You, Michelle, were found guilty on all accounts in this courtroom. You, Michelle, drove with Fotis while you threw away Jennifer's bloody clothes in the trash. You, Michelle, lied multiple times to the police. You, Michelle, have been disrespectful in this courtroom. You, Michelle, have been found guilty of conspiring with Fotis to murder Jennifer. You, Michelle, show no remorse and no accountability.
Exactly.
Michelle Troconis deserves to spend the maximum sentence behind bars because of all that she did. She helped change the course of so many people's lives. And for what? To take Jennifer's place? Because you could never.
Exactly.
To live this lavish lifestyle Fotis promised? We'll never know, because I believe Michelle will never be honest. She took away the most genuine, thoughtful, funny, and kind person I have ever met. She took away a mother who sang silly songs to her kids, who was always there when they fell to lift them back up. A mother whose whole life was Petros, Theodore, Christian, Constantine, and Noel. Now, these kids and all of Jennifer's loved ones no longer have that. We don't even have the comfort of knowing where she is. Where is she, Michelle? Michelle helped take Jennifer's life at the young age of 50, and she deserves to live out the maximum sentence behind bars. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
She really did.
Your Honor, I
That
would ask
was
the
powerful.
court to hear next from Constantine. Constantine was Jennifer's son, and he was 10 years old when his mother was murdered.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
The actions of Michelle Troconis on May 24th, 2019 drastically impacted my life. All this began back in 2016 when I first met Michelle Troconis. I remember that my dad developed a new poisonous personality while she was around. Michelle's careless behavior led to their affair, cheating on a wonderful mother who had done nothing wrong. A family living on the opposite side of the country. Michelle was the absolute last thing my family needed. Throughout the divorce, when we had visitation with my dad, the court ordered that Michelle was not to be present. However, she insisted that we did see her. She insisted on making our family normal. She put pressure on my dad to get the divorce over. She made it clear to my dad that they had to do something. She conspired to commit murder. She conspired to commit tampering with physical evidence. She tampered with physical evidence. She hindered prosecution. She has shown no remorse. She has not cooperated. She attempted to frame Pavel, an innocent and kind man. My mother was a caring mother of 5 children.
So Fotis borrowed an employee, y'all correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but Fotis borrowed somebody else's truck, and that's whose truck they used to like do all this. And I think that individual, because I think Fotis recommended that he get the seats changed or something. And I think the guy kept the seats or something. Like, y'all, I've been watching a lot of cases. If I'm remembering correctly, I think the guy, I think he kept the original seats or something. Something happened, but they tried to frame one of Fotis's employees in the midst of all this. Yeah, the employee's truck. I thought so. Yeah. So Fotis borrowed that person's truck. And I think he like rode his bike to the house, and like the whole thing is just a mess. Just a huge mess. And that day, Jennifer had an appointment with one of the children in New York, and she would have never missed a doctor's appointment. And that's how the family knew that something was wrong. So that's what her son is referencing that. So Jennifer has 2 sets of twins. And so that's how there's at the time of because I guess there's a set of 2 17-year-olds and then a set of 2 10-year-olds. And then was there a 13-year-old, I think? And so, but at the time, back in 2019. So there were 2 sets of twins. I hope that helps clarify things.
Children, a loyal friend and sister, a lovely daughter. My mom always had a dream to be grandmother, forgetting the names of our many children. She will not have that. Taking away a nurturing mother at such a young age is not something you, the court, can take lightly. I can't go home to my mom and talk to her about my school day. I can't listen in on any of her stories. I can't crawl into her bed late at night. I can't learn things from her, like when she taught me how to tie my shoelace the proper way. She was my favorite person in the world, my role model. She is still somewhere in my heart. However, I will never be the same person as I was in Connecticut. All this loss is because of Michelle Troconis. I think she should serve the maximum sentence possible. In the end, however, your decision and my statement are not about me or Michelle. This is about serving justice for my mother, Jennifer Doulos. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, I'd ask the court to hear from Caroline Buckley. Caroline is a longtime friend of Jennifer and caregiver now to the children as well.
They have so much support, and they just want their mom. Understand?
Judge Randolph, thank you for the opportunity to address the court. Jennifer was my friend for 12 years before her murder. Our children are the same age and went to the same school together until she was forced to leave Farmington in 2017. We celebrated births and birthdays together, school concerts and sports days. I miss her every day. In 2017, when Jennifer found out about Michelle Troconis, such was her fear of Fotis that she planned her escape. She hid her belongings at my house before she fled. She left a community of friends that loved her. She left a school that her children loved and that the defendant subsequently enrolled her daughter in. Throughout the following months, Jennifer was shocked at the behavior of Michelle Troconis. Jennifer, honest to her core, was horrified at Michelle's belief that rules did not apply to her. We witnessed this behavior throughout the trial. As a result of Michelle Troconis' lies, Fotis Doulos was not initially arrested. Living in Farmington meant that my family were located in close proximity to the defendant. Every day, we lived in fear. We searched for answers and looked for clues for Jennifer. Places that had warm memories of friendship and fun childhoods became the stuff of nightmares. On a practical level, in May 2019, it became clear that Jennifer's house belongings in New Canaan needed to be tended to. Documents relating to her children within days of her murder needed to be retrieved from that house. So 7 days later, I went into that house. I remember the 5 fish swimming in their bowls, the kitchen with balloons left over from a celebration scattered about the fingerprint dust and bloodstains. Going into that garage where my lovely friend met the end of her existence is something that will haunt me for the rest of my life. It was devastating to witness the evidence of suffering and unimaginable fear and pain Jennifer endured in her final moments. Michelle Troconis' actions on May 24th and beyond have had heart-crushing implications for her children, Patrice, Theodore, Christian, Constantine, and Noel. Throughout our friendship, we talked of our hopes and dreams for our children. Every day since their mother's murder, I have watched these dreams take shape, but they are a little duller without her bright light, and they will always be that way because of the actions and very clear inaction of Michelle Troconis. Since May 24th, 2019, I have thought about Jennifer every day. I would be going through my normal day and inevitably be stopped in my tracks by the reminder that this happened to all of us. My husband, my children, my siblings, my mom. While I am grateful for the family we have created, the reality that this murder has taken place shocks me every day to my core, and I still find it hard to fathom that Jennifer is gone. I am left to navigate a world forever changed by the cruelty of the defendant's actions. The brutality of Jennifer's death haunts me
leaving me with questions that will never be answered and wounds that will never fully heal. I miss my friend deeply. Her generosity of spirit, her optimism in human nature, her firm belief in her children, and her fierce enthusiasm for life. Our life will never be the same. Michelle, you know what your actions have affected families, not just in Connecticut, not just in the USA, but across the world. Your decision in 2016 when you met Fotis was yours alone. You could have walked away, you chose not to. You chose to get involved with a married father of 5. You chose to move to Connecticut. Know that we see you. We saw you then, and we see you now for what you are. There is no doubt in my mind that you should spend the rest of your life in jail for your actions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ask the court next to hear from Noelle. Noelle was 8. She was 8 years old the day her mother was murdered.
I think she's the youngest.
Your Honor, Michelle Troconis and her actions have affected my life in many ways. I've now lost the 2 people I've loved most in this world. My mom will now never get to see me or my siblings grow up, something I had known she had always wanted. I'm now growing up without my mother. This is something no child should ever have to do. Her life was cut short, and Michelle was a contributor. Finding closure is impossible, considering Michelle never gave any information about where my mother is and what actually happened on May 24th, 2019. Because of that day, I constantly feel like something worse is bound to happen to the people I love, and it could be my last moments with them at any minute. I remember seeing these stories on the news and thinking they were just simply crazy stories and it would never happen to my family or me. But because it did, I feel scared that it will happen again and again to everyone I love most. Most of all, I feel betrayed by Michelle. I vividly remember her on ski trips when I was scared to sleep at night, or her picking me off my bunk bed because I was scared to go down on my own. And I remember trusting her. I don't understand how she could be so selfish, and it scares me to put my trust in other people now because of Michelle Troconis. She's made my family and me suffer. Because of this, I believe she should serve the consequences of her actions, and I believe she should receive the maximum sentence. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I would ask the court to hear from Carrie Luft. Carrie is a longtime friend of Jennifer. She's also a caregiver to the children and the Farber family spokesperson.
After the court hears from Ms. Luft, we will take a morning recess.
And I'll be able to fast forward through that. This was about custody and about money. That's what this was about. This wasn't just about Fotis moving on with his girlfriend. It was also about, because Jennifer was the one with more money. And he had a business, but he put on this air that he was extremely successful, but he was in significant debt and he needed her money. And she was likely going to get full custody of the kids because he was not abiding by the court order to the point where there was supervised visitation. There wasn't just, and it was a court, like it was an outside person that had to supervise the visits. And so this was about custody and money.
And Ms. Luft will conclude the speakers, Your Honor. The state would go into their remarks after the recess.
Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
There's more to writing than just recording the facts. There's what's called fiction, art. Some people can turn their memories, the images that haunt them, into transcendence, freedom almost. The purging, it creates a lightness, a light almost. Jennifer Farber-Dulos wrote those lines in a play in 1996. She was a gifted and singularly perceptive writer and my dearest friend for almost 30 years. She was the maid of honor at my wedding, and 12 years later, she stood with me at my husband's wake. After his death, she was my emergency contact. We talked to and wrote to each other about everything under the sun and supported each other artistically, intellectually, emotionally, unconditionally. When Jennifer redid her will in late March of 2017, she asked me to be her healthcare proxy. She trusted me, as she put it, to know when to shut it down. The scenarios I reluctantly considered at the time: a terrible accident, a terminal disease, do not even come close to the depraved, meticulously planned, brutal murder of Jennifer in her own garage, the desecration and disappearance of her body, the discarding of her bloody clothing in garbage bags destined for a landfill. Those images, everything I witnessed at the defendant's trial, all the missing pieces of evidence and actions in between that we have to imagine, swim in my mind every day. Beginning on May 24th, 2019, as you have heard, and continuing seamlessly for 5 years, a group of us, Jennifer's close friends, have supported Gloria Farber in the raising of Jennifer's 5 children. We have all overhauled our lives, our relationships, our careers to create a safe, trusted, loving home life for them. I cannot imagine doing anything else. I hope that gives a sense of the strength of Jennifer's love and friendship. I try to live out her values in my relationships with each of them, especially those of empathy, kindness, love of literature and humor, and respect for their individuality. I feel a duty to keep her memory and spirit alive for her children, not only by relating stories, but through sharing books, films, plays, music, and experiences that spoke to her so that she can continue to reach them. On that first weekend that Jennifer was missing, I also became the media spokesperson for our group of family and friends. I am not a public relations professional. I am a writer, and I was impelled to use my skills to represent our friend, to be an insightful, trustworthy voice for her family and loved ones amid the increasing media interest. Jennifer was a deeply private person. The extensive media coverage, the digging into her life and the lives of her family members, the proliferation of her photos online would have horrified her. I feel compromised each time I issue a statement or participate in an interview, yet I'm committed to being a voice for Jennifer and to protecting her family's privacy. In so doing, I have become a public figure. All of us are now characters in a public true crime narrative, which is an unsettling and bizarre experience. I acknowledge that I have voluntarily assumed the role of spokesperson, but it takes a heavy toll. Every time I am asked what it felt like when, I am re-traumatized. I must also hold back a large body of information. During the defendant's trial, it was distressing to realize that most of my communications with Jennifer would be regarded as hearsay in a criminal court. Jennifer began to express overt fears for her physical safety in the spring of 2017, after Fotis-Dulos announced his plans for the defendant to move to Farmington. His behavior changed to become more physically aggressive and defiant toward Jennifer after he became involved with the defendant. She showed up to tour Renbrook School in early April 20.
Wow. So the child, because one of the children said that as well, and I wasn't sure if that memory was accurate or not. I wasn't sure if they were trying to remember their dad more fondly, or I don't know, so it sounds like he had a significant change in his behavior once his affection shifted to Michelle, and she allowed that. So if I was single, and so first of all, I wouldn't date somebody that wasn't divorced, but if I was dating somebody that had an ex and they were like berating, manipulating, they were doing all these horrible things to their ex, I would not date them. Like, how somebody treats somebody, I think that even if they're an ex, I think that speaks volumes about their character. But it sounds like Michelle did not stand up for Jennifer or tell him to not. And so it sounds like the family thinks she's part of the reason why he shifted, and that she was kind of involved in some of that. Definitely sounds like that's what the family thinks. Wow.
2017, the school attended by Jennifer's children, a couple of weeks after Jennifer had learned of the affair. In April 2018, she defied family court orders by touring New Canaan Country School, then attended by Jennifer's children. This was not proactive legwork on behalf of her child. These were acts of aggression toward Jennifer.
Yeah.
Because this information would not be admissible as evidence, I was not able to stand up for Jennifer to relay her experiences and voice her fears that the defendant was trying to replace her.
She was.
On May 24th, 2019, the defendant collaborated on the plan to kill Jennifer by transporting, unlocking, and operating her partner's phone while he murdered Jennifer in New Canaan.
Yeah.
Then she actively participated in the destruction of evidence, which delayed the murder arrests until January 2020. That delay enabled the introduction of a degrading line of argument and speculation put forth by Fotis Doulos' defense counsel that Jennifer had voluntarily disappeared, abandoning her children. This was slander, suggesting that Jennifer was not only alive, but also deceitful, cunning, and unspeakably callous. The theory was picked up widely in the media, and I had to defend a murder victim in the press.
Okay.
The most conscientious person I have ever known, who was unfailingly devoted to her children and loved them beyond compare.
Yeah.
The defendant repeated the theory that Jennifer had run away multiple times in her interviews with the investigators. That was not a coincidence. During the period from June 2019 to January 2020, we, Jennifer's loved ones, were not permitted to acknowledge that she was deceased. As our spokesperson, I had to publicly sustain the fiction that she might be found alive, which was deeply dishonest and felt disrespectful of what Jennifer had endured. We held a memorial for her in secret, tightly managed, fearful that the media would find out and report that the family believed Jennifer was dead. The defendant's refusal to provide any information, even speculative, as to what was done with Jennifer's body is a sustained act of cruelty.
Yeah.
We are unable to bury Jennifer or to mourn her properly.
Yeah.
I lie awake at night, recreating in my mind the log of actions and locations on May 24th and the days surrounding it, trying to piece together where Jennifer is.
Yeah.
For the defendant, Jennifer's murder was not enough. She has continued to disparage and degrade Jennifer over the 5 years following. From her interviews with the investigators in the summer of 2019 to her actions in criminal court in 2024, she has repeatedly insisted that Jennifer was sick. On February 15th, 2024, during the criminal trial proceedings in this very courtroom, I witnessed the defendant displaying on her laptop in very large type, with the intent that it be readable from a distance, a sealed family court document that was stricken from the record. Earlier that same afternoon, I heard the defendant state aloud in English while walking out during a recess for everyone within earshot to hear, she was sick, followed by a psychiatric diagnosis. Even at her own trial, at which she did not take the stand, the defendant was using underhanded, provocative methods to espouse Doulos's defense theory. Her continued insistence that Jennifer was sick indicates the following to me. After that discredited document had failed to get them what they wanted in family court, which was custody of the children, the defendant and her partner were still depending on it for their defense, to support the notion that Jennifer had run away. These actions by the defendant occurred weeks after Jennifer's blood-saturated shirt, her brassiere dyed maroon with her own blood, both garments cut down the front, were presented as evidence. I urge you to apply the maximum sentencing to the defendant. She wanted to erase and replace Jennifer Farber-Doulos, and she very nearly succeeded. She believes that the rules do not apply to her, whether the protocol of a courtroom or regard for human life. It is she who is deceitful, cunning, and unspeakably callous. When she conspired to murder Jennifer, she gave no thought to the 5 children, young people she knew well and professed to love, who would be torn from their mother and she from them forever. In a play Jennifer wrote more than 30 years ago, a character says to herself, I have this dream that keeps me going. I go downstairs, and there she is, in a bassinet under the shelves. I reach in, pick her up. She is heavy as I lift her. She opens her eyes. They're brown, like mine, like hers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Wow. That was powerful.
Perhaps now would be a good time for a break, Your Honor.
We are going to take a morning recess. What the court will.
All right. So they took a morning recess. Let's see if we can catch up. Okay. So then the prosecutor is going to come up and make some statements. All right. So let's skip ahead to this.
But you can see the impact of having someone like Jennifer as their mother has had on them. They are strong, they are intelligent, and they are kind.
Yeah.
Jennifer's friends coming together to dedicate their lives to helping these children grow and continue Jennifer's memory. This shows how amazing Jennifer Doulos truly was to inspire such loyalty and such friendship. She can never be forgotten or replaced, even though the defendant, Michelle Troconis, tried. And she tried in the most evil and heinous way by agreeing to commit murder. I mean, think about that. You agree, you have a conversation, you talk about it, and you agree. You plan to kill somebody, to take a life. The hatred the defendant must have.
All right. And so, because I got a great question and I answered it in the chat, but where she's going, I wanted to answer it out loud. So Zoe asked if there were possible indicators of narcissism. So narcissism is where I think people's brains like to go first. In my opinion, what comes to me more is more antisocial type personality features, where a person believes they're above the law, they'll get what they want by any means necessary. And there's no indication that Michelle had, to my understanding, that she had broken the law multiple times. It seems like she wanted Fotis and she wanted Jennifer's life. And some things are criminal and they don't necessarily mean that there's like a psychiatric reason for something. So some people break the law because they do a bad thing. And there's not always a mental health reason. Like we often want there because we don't want to think that we live in a world where people just do this kind of thing. unfortunately. Like some people are just selfish, and it's not necessarily like a clinical narcissism. It's not necessary. And this is the one I wanted. It's not necessarily a like a particular diagnosis or personality traits. Some people just suck. I'm sorry. Like some people are just jerks. And so that's why I do this. I do this so that we can break down some of the psychology and what kind of can be going on. Because somebody like Charlie Adelson, though, so he's been like breaking a whole bunch of laws. Like Charlie Adelson, he had kind of a pattern. Christopher Greger, he has kind of a pattern. Michelle Troconis, to my understanding, this was her first kind of thing that she had gotten into and done like this. And I think she might have also thought if they got caught, Fotis Fotis was the one that would kind of go down, and she could kind of sit back like, oh, woe is me. So for me, it's kind of like Donna Adelson going on trial, or if they ever charge Wendy. I think Wendy's way too smart. I'm pretty sure. I don't know that they'll ever catch Wendy. If she's innocent till proven, like, but like, I don't know. I don't know if they'll ever get enough on Wendy unless Donna or Charlie flip. And I don't know that they ever will. And so, Michelle wasn't there, but she actively knew what was happening and she actively covered it up and she was actively involved in the cover up. Sarah, I agree. I don't think Wendy will ever be charged. And I will be following Donna's trial as well. I did an old video on the Adelson family and some of my thoughts and Wendy's testimony. Wendy's smart. Wendy's very, very smart. And so those are my thoughts. Michelle, I think she got jealous. Like jealous is an emotion. And for me, I might like my friend's life. I might like what they have going on. I would never do something, or even like a stranger. If I see something a stranger has, I'm not going to try to take it. Like I'm not going to do that. That's not the type of person I am. But there are people that do bad things. Like that's the world that we live in. Um, and I think money can be a big motivator. I think if the courts had been on Fotis's side, but Fotis wouldn't abide by the rules. If Fotis had abided by the rules, and if he had like done what his attorney said, he probably could have gotten the courts to eventually agree for Michelle to be able to be in his life at some point. But he was unwilling for the courts to mandate who could or could not be around his children. But the courts can do that. And so, and I don't think he liked that. And so he did not follow any of the rules. And that is what got him into trouble, where his visitation was supervised. And he was probably on the brink of maybe losing visitation as well, because it sounded like he still wanted to poke his way into Jennifer's life. And he also, I think he wanted her money, I think. Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Must have had for Jennifer Dulos to willingly conspire to commit murder. Remember the words conveyed by a witness during the trial as to how the defendant even referred to Jennifer Dulos as a bitch who should be buried next to a dog. These children in 2019.
Who said that? Who's
the defendant?
That's what she said.
To take a life. The hatred the defendant must have had for Jennifer Dulos to willingly conspire to commit murder. Remember the words conveyed by a witness during the trial as to how the defendant even referred to Jennifer Dulos as a bitch who should be buried next to a dog. These children.
Y'all, that is on some other level. Okay, so I wasn't aware of that statement. That could be crossing the line into some at least antisocial traits. At least some antisocial traits. And because when Jennifer found out, Jennifer was like, "You can have him." Jennifer was, but just like I don't want my kids around you. I don't want my kids around you and your daughter. Like, that's all Jennifer wanted. And as the mom, she had every right, and the courts agreed with it. So that is, that's pretty problematic. Okay, let's keep going.
In 2019, the children Your Honor heard from today, Patrice, remember, was 13. Theodore was 13. Constantine was 10. Christiane was 10. And Noelle was 8. She was 8 years old when the defendant conspired with Fotis Doulos to kill their mother. And some of the things Your Honor heard from the family are proven to be true. The defendant knew these children for years before 2019. She professed to care for them. I think about Noelle's story about trusting the defendant. And at the same time that she professed to care for these children, she made the conscious decision with Fotis Doulos to take their mother's life. Knowing you are going to inflict unimaginable pain, suffering, and loss on 5 small children, and still making that decision, still deciding to commit murder, then covering it up and destroying evidence, it's resulted in so much pain that is still to this day, and with no closure in sight. Because Jennifer's family still doesn't know the location of Jennifer's body. And make no mistake, we will never stop looking.
Yeah.
Jennifer's murder was so premeditated, so planned. Everything was planned out, from answering the phone, acting as an alibi, to assisting with the disposal of Jennifer's bloodied shirt and bra, along with the other items used in the crime, in the garbage on the streets of Hartford. The defendant willingly agreed to answer the alibi call, to walk around and carry Fotis's phone that morning, and to participate in the cleanup at 80 Mountain Spring Road and light the fires. And days later, she willingly agreed to continue this cover-up by writing a false alibi script, and at Russell Speeders by assisting in further destruction of evidence in the vehicle that was used in the homicide. And all those lies she perpetuated with the police, she did those acts on her own, just like she willingly agreed to murder Jennifer Doulos. It's the motive, Your Honor, the facts of the case that came out during the trial, the contempt the defendant has shown, and the cruelty that she has imposed on so many people, which mandates a substantial amount of incarceration. The motive, the reason the defendant agreed with Fotis Doulos that Jennifer needed to die was clearly brought out in the trial. The defendant wanted her dead. It is only with Jennifer's death would all the court hearings and custody hearings stop. Remember the defendant's own words that she endured 2 years of torture. It's been like a nightmare. Then she would finally be able to live in a beautiful home in Farmington. Fotis Doulos would have all the children in his home. Michelle Troconis would finally get everything she wanted. She could replace Jennifer. But in order for that to happen, Jennifer had to die. William Shakespeare wrote, "There is no sure foundation set on blood, no certain life achieved by others' death." That quotation rings so true here because the defendant thought she could build her life on Jennifer's death. The defendant wanted so badly to replace Jennifer that in April 2017, before Jennifer had even moved out of the family house, that's when she toured the school that the Doulos children were attending. And when Jennifer moved to New Canaan, the defendant again toured the school, New Canaan Country School, where the children were attended, even when she still resided in Farmington, miles away. She moved into the house at 4 Jefferson Crossing, a house Fotis and Jennifer built together, paid for by Jennifer's family. She worked at 4 Group, a business financed by Jennifer's father. And she immersed herself in the homeowners association in the neighborhood, trying to replace Jennifer and the Doulos children. Even when she wasn't supposed to be near them during visits, she was. The children were given the impossible and cruel task of lying to their mother. The defendant's cold-heartedness, her selfishness, it absolutely has no bounds. But it didn't work. She wasn't able to replace Jennifer. Jennifer fought back in court dates and hearings. She fought to protect her children. And that envy and jealousy that was so in Michelle Troconis' heart, it turned to hatred and blame. And that is when this agreement to happen. The defendant did more than just agree to commit this act, though. She assisted in it. She assisted in acting as an alibi, in covering up the murder, making these 5 children wonder day in, day out, what happened to their mother. In the beginning, hoping their mother would come home. All the while, the defendant knew she was never coming home. The motive of these charges, Your Honor, that she has been convicted of is clear. It is heinous, callous, and it warrants substantial incarceration. Now, a jury of her peers have found Michelle Troconis guilty of each and every count. I'm not going to go over the 6 weeks of trial. Your Honor heard the testimony, you sat through all the defendant's interviews, her multiple lies, her misdirection, and her manipulation. Your Honor described it at an earlier hearing as 8 hours of inconsistencies on material issues and a cascade of circumstantial evidence. For sentencing today, I want to highlight some specific things that came out in the jury trial that showed the manipulation and pervasive cruelty of the defendant. And I want to be clear on one thing.
Pervasive cruelty.
We're not here to sentence Fotis Doulos.
Yeah.
The defendant is faced with 45 years. Fotis Doulos clearly would be before the court, in the state's opinion, facing a lot more time.
Yeah.
The state is basing its recommendation on the defendant's own actions, her agreement to commit this heinous act, and the defendant's lack of remorse and her lack of acceptance of responsibility. The actions in 2019 of a 44-year-old professional, educated woman with hate in her heart and a capacity to conspire to kill. The cascade of evidence, as Your Honor called it, some of the facts. The defendant manipulated Fotis' phone to act as an alibi as he murdered Jennifer Doulos, all to ensure she answered the call, the alibi call that was on Fotis' script as if it was he that answered that call. The defendant participated in the back and forth at 80 Mountain Spring Road and Fort Jefferson Crossing, and later discarded evidence on the Hartford city streets in garbage cans. The 3 separate fires at Fort Jefferson Crossing on Memorial Day weekend when the defendant was home. And the disposal of the bags of evidence in Hartford, tampering with evidence. You know, that sounds so simple, that word, tampering. We hear it all the time in criminal court, tampering. When, if you look at the facts of this case, it's so much more cruel than that. Because what did she tamper with? Blood-stained gloves, a bloody poncho, bloody towel, altered license plate in the sewer, a blood-soaked bra, sliced down the middle, blood-soaked shirt, sliced down the front, and the zip ties, the bloody zip ties that were found with them. What was done to Jennifer that zip ties were needed? Only those who agreed to commit the act may know. We won't ever know.
Great question, Rochelle. So this one's a tough one, because what could be going on is that she doesn't want to be portrayed this way, especially in front of her family and her child, because her family has supported her. Her family does not, it's my understanding, based on things I've seen, it does not sound like her family believes that she's capable of this. And so to me, some of this is saving face, in my opinion. But I think similar to Fotis, who she was behind closed doors, I don't know. Like, I don't know that her family really knows. I do believe that she was offered something to flip on Fotis. I'm pretty sure, because the state wants to know, like tell us the truth. Like, don't go down for this for him. And okay, because she has never flipped on him. She has never, ever, ever flipped on him. The state probably, I don't know if they did something similar to Adam Montgomery. Was that Adam Montgomery? Harmony Montgomery's father. I don't know if they said like, hey, just tell us where she is. Well, I don't know that the state did anything like this before sentencing. I honestly don't think that they believe she'll ever say anything. I don't know that she'll ever say anything. I don't know. And there's a small chance that she doesn't know. There's a chance, maybe there's a chance, but there's a part of me that thinks that she knows. It's just a feeling. I don't know that for sure.
Days later, when the police were looking for Jennifer, the defendant was writing an alibi script. And on May 29, 2019, she and Fotostulos took the Tacoma to the car wash at Russell Speeders in order to destroy any evidence contained within it. And looking at the garage at 69 Wells Lane at Jennifer's home, a home she had just returned to from dropping off her children, what could Jennifer have been experiencing in the final moments of her life? We get to ask that. What did she experience? Sheer terror and desperation come to mind. And of course, as a loving and devoted mother, her children. I think about what Jennifer must have felt and thought as she was dying. All the blood indicating a brutal murder. If she was zip-tied alive with the bloody zip ties, we don't know. We don't know exactly what Jennifer felt, went through, or was thinking. But we do know what the defendant thought. Because the very next day, the defendant got her hair done. She laughed and she smiled with her hairdresser. And later, joking at the pond with her friends, this was in her interview. She joked about if she can have sex with Fotis while in jail. Jokes. We know what the defendant thought. All the while, 5 children are home, scared and suffering. I spoke about the motive, Your Honor, the hatred that caused the defendant to commit this crime, and the egregious and awful facts. The defendant has never accepted responsibility for her actions. I'm also cognizant of today's date. Today is May 31st, 2024. It was 5 years ago today, on May 31st, 2019, that Detective Butin with the Connecticut State Police seized the defendant's phone and began the execution of a search warrant on 4 Jefferson Crossing. On May 31st, 2019, it was the first day the defendant became aware that the police were closing in on her too. And she had a choice that day to cooperate, to tell the truth, to accept responsibility, and she made a conscious decision not to do so. Instead, she perpetuated a lie after lie after lie. And here we are 5 years later. All there have been are lies. Multiple lies, misdirection, and manipulation of law enforcement. There is no Fotostulos over her shoulder manipulating her. She played her role to the fullest on her own. In her 3 interviews to the police, she tried to portray the facade of the dumb girlfriend. I believe those were her words. This from a professional woman with all these degrees and accomplishments that the defense presents, numerous letters from people who have interacted with her, supported her. The dichotomy presented shows not only the lies and the facade she played in these interviews with law enforcement, but also that she can clearly play a role that is expected of her. Now, I don't stand here and minimize community support. It is such an important and treasured thing, as Your Honor can see from the Farber family community that has come together. And the letters, the numerous letters written to the court about the defendant. What's interesting to me that I found after reading them, and I did read them, is they all essentially say the same thing. And none of these people, from her family to the people she was at the cookie sale with, people she water skied with, her daughter's friends, these are just a few of the people that she wrote letters on behalf of the defendant. None of these people ever stood in the way of something she wanted. That was only Jennifer. Jennifer Dulos is the only person that ever stood in Michelle Troconis' way. And look what happened to Jennifer. The motive, facts, and the defendant's true feelings. She has not shown remorse. All she has shown is contempt. The lies show a complete contempt for the criminal justice system, for law enforcement, for the law, for Jennifer and her loved ones. And what's interesting about the lies is how pervasive and planned they are, how they're actually about important things to the case. She knew exactly what she was saying. Her contempt for law enforcement was clear. Her contempt for the trial was clear. She's actually charged with contempt of court for her actions in the courtroom during the trial. Displaying the custody report on her laptop angled toward the camera in violation of the court's order. This is the true Michelle Troconis. And just by nature, a guilty verdict for hindering prosecution. Hindering prosecution is the epitome of contempt for the criminal justice system. All these things mandate a substantial period of incarceration. But I want to talk about one last thing before I end my remarks. And that is the cruelty she has shown Jennifer's family. From the first interview with the police, she attempted to perpetuate this false narrative, this lie that Jennifer was sick, the lie that Jennifer would abandon her children and run away. Again, from the very beginning, the first interview, June 2nd, an attempted manipulation that continued throughout the trial. The defendant knew full well that Jennifer had not run away. In fact, the defendant not only conspired to murder Jennifer Dulos, she then assisted in the disposal of her bloody clothing, and then attempted to manipulate law enforcement by coldly implying that Jennifer just probably ran away. The cruelty to do this, to imply to 5 children that their mother would abandon them, knowing she was already dead. It amazes me that someone could make that evil decision to murder someone, then disparage the deceased victim over and over again for years, making things worse for those sadly left behind.
Her children.
The hatred, anger, and jealousy towards Jennifer Dulos. She will never let her rest. This is cruelty. The state respectfully requests the court sentence the defendant to a maximum period of incarceration. I listened to the family this morning, and hearing their pain, I don't think I could stand here and ask for anything less. She gave Jennifer a death sentence, so we are asking the court to give the defendant a life sentence, 45 years. The defendant, over the course of months and years, has never let Jennifer Dulos rest. Hopefully, with this sentence, the court does. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Schoenhorn.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm not going to quote from the 64 letters that have been presented to the court. I assume Your Honor had an opportunity to read them.
Yes.
And unlike the state, for my purposes, I provided those to the state days ago so they could read them. I was not given the same privilege with regard to the state.
Boo-hoo. That's just my snark, okay? Like, if you watch Grizzly True Crime, I love how she talks about snark. And this is the defense lawyer. He's going to advocate for his client, and we're going to breathe through that. 64 letters, that's a lot. I think that's some of the most, so there have been 64 letters written in support of Michelle. Okay. Whew. Let's keep going.
Statements until moments before we started today. I'm not going to address them. I believe that they were heartfelt, the statements that were made, and I'm certainly not going to address any of those statements. I do, however, before I ask for certain comments to be made by family and friends, just want to note that there are, as I counted, approximately 44 people present in support here of my client, Michelle Troconis. They come from Florida, Connecticut, other states, from Europe, and 9 who came in from Latin America There are a few that are going to be presented who couldn't fly in. So briefly, they made statements that I'm going to present to the court, brief statements by their video presentation comments to the court. But I do want to correct a false narrative that I believe the state has suggested, and which is sort of suggested by the pre-sentence report, and that is either.
Wait a minute. I would love to see what the pre-sentence report says, because those are normally, the judge normally goes with what the pre-sentence report says. That's where somebody meets with the defendant and then they make a recommendation to the court.
That Michelle Troconis was the responsible for the breakup of the marriage to Jennifer Doulos with Fotis.
So I would put the blame on Fotis because he's the one that's in the marriage. Like that's my own personal thing. I mentioned that on my last stream covering Ali Abulaban. So I would put that on Fotis. I wouldn't put that on Jennifer. But like she was a pretty active, like enrolling her child in the same school as her, like that's just weird. Some of that stuff is just weird. That's just my thought.
Or that she wanted to replace Jennifer Doulos and become the parent of these children. Nothing would be further from the truth. And just I'll indicate, as part of the information, the discovery that was provided, we have all of these text messages from Fotis Doulos' phone going back for years.
I think so.
And in those messages are all the text messages between Michelle Troconis going back to 2016, where she's expressing hesitation. You want me to move up there, but how is Jennifer going to look at this? Is this really something I should do? And Fotis Doulos repeatedly is saying she is fine, that is, his wife is fine with that. They've moved on. Their marriage has been broken up amicably. And yes, everything will be fine if you come up here with your daughter. We'll get you enrolled in the school. The children will be friends, et cetera, et cetera. So any suggestion that this was caused by Michelle Troconis is not a true picture. She also, I would also note that Fotis Doulos personally told, and it's not relevant for the trial, but personally told Michelle's family and mutual friends that it was an amicable divorce and that Michelle was coming up here and that his wife was fine with that. So I just want to indicate that because there's been a suggestion that somehow Michelle was responsible for the breakup of this fine marriage, which is simply untrue, and simply the opposite is the evidence that was not presented at trial, but is presented through the discovery material. The second thing that was just suggested by the state is that somehow Michelle Troconis wanted to, quote, replace, unquote, Jennifer Doulos. Keep in mind that it was Jennifer Doulos who surreptitiously moved down to New Canaan before Michelle Troconis moved up here when she found out that Fotis told her that he was in love with.
I do not like the narrative. He is so like, because it's my understanding her decision to move was she did it quietly because I think it was only her and the nanny that knew because she wanted to get out of the house, and that like this was the narrative he's saying just does not seem accurate. That's my nice way of saying what I want to say.
With Michelle, and he was going to have her come up here. He may have told his lawyer that he had this grandiose idea that would be great if his wife lived in the same house with Michelle and their kids could all be living in one happy house. But that was Fotis Doulos' fantasy, not Michelle Troconis. At no time did she present that or did she even suggest that that was something that she wanted.
That would have been weird.
I just note that the state did keep out, the state objected to a lot of the divorce material coming in, but I've read through every divorce pleading and those transcripts that were not sealed by the divorce court. And I indicate that Michelle Troconis had no involvement in any of the things that were going on in the divorce proceeding. She only knew what Fotis told her, what Fotis's lawyers told her. And that was borne out by the testimony of the attorneys. But I want the court to be aware that any suggestion that there was some kind of scheme to replace Jennifer Doulos by Michelle and that she wanted to somehow be the cause of a split up of a marriage is not borne out by any facts. That's just pure speculation. I also want to point out that despite what I heard today, Michelle didn't just speculate about what might have happened to Jennifer Doulos. She personally went out with the police in hot, muggy weather, going through the woods, showing the police places where they traveled, where they went through with motorcycles, trying to help them. She drew maps and gave them were places where that she knew that Fotis Doulos had gone, properties that he owned, places that he went, in order to assist with that kind of searches. So to the extent that there has been a suggestion that she didn't even try to help discover the location, or the suggestion that she has any clue as to what happened to Jennifer Doulos, the evidence I would submit points to the opposite. That is what happened to her ultimately, right? I'm not here to try and convince the court to overturn the verdict. I made my motion. The court rejected that. And it will just be its preserved issue. Maybe another court will have a second look at it, but I understand Your Honor's position, so I'm certainly not going to argue that. I did, however, want the court at least to have a clear picture as to what some of these peripheral issues are that have been suggested by the pre-sentence report. I also am struck by the fact that Fotis Doulos' name almost didn't come up at all. This was, to a large extent, discussion about Fotis Doulos' involvement and what he did, the actions he took. And I will note that any reference by Michelle Troconis to the Dr. Herman report during those video interviews, and again, the court ruled that that couldn't come in, but to the extent it was discussed, it was what Fotis chose to tell her about that. She wasn't stating, I believe that Jennifer Doulos had mental health issues. She's saying, that's what Fotis told me was going on. At no point during the 5 years or 4 years and a half that I was involved in this case, and I would say even my predecessor, did we, and that is Michelle Troconis' defense team,
said something in the
ever
hallway.
suggest that Jennifer Doulos ran away. Again, that's Fotis Doulos' lawyer who made that suggestion. That's what the press ran with, and that was then made into some kind of a Lifetime event movie. That was not Michelle Troconis who did that. So before I go into anything else that I want to say, there are a number of people that I want to have speak to the court. And I'm going to begin with Michelle Troconis' pastor, Pastor Christopher Solomon. So I'm going to ask him to come up at this time. And maybe if you can come to the...
All right. So I really like that at the front of this, that we kept this about, because I think this is really more about Jennifer than it is about Michelle. And so people are going to come up and they're going to talk about how this might affect them. I have the full link to Law and Crime down below. I'm sure Michelle loves having all of this support for her, and people are going to say what they're going to say. And then I think maybe the court is going to go on break. Let's see what happens at the end of this. I'm thinking the court's going to go on break. Let's see.
To the marshals.
All right.
Let me go back.
Our challenge is too big to overcome. As you can see, and hope our lives.
Thank you. Attorney Schoenhorn, what we will do is take a break until 1 o'clock and then resume at 1 o'clock. And please give heed to the marshals.
All right.
All right. So I have a 1 o'clock client. I am not going to be able to follow up on this part. I will watch it. And if the judge says something really impactful, or if y'all want me to cover it tomorrow, I will be going live tomorrow. Yes. And so I'm definitely going to do it tomorrow. I'm not sure if anybody has seen it and if they know if her daughter said anything. I'm sure her daughter at least gave a statement. If I were on that side, I wouldn't want my daughter to show up in person, knowing all of this is being streamed and everything. I personally don't do crimes. Don't end up in situations like this. I don't know if her daughter spoke. As we were going through this, more testimony happened. Like I said, I have the full link down below if you would like to see the statements that were given by Michelle Troconis' side. I truly, truly hope that y'all have a great day. Tomorrow, I will be covering the verdict of Aliyah Boulaban. I did a short on it, but I want to talk a little bit more and just answer any questions if anybody has any. The jury for Gregor is still deliberating. I opened that up here on my phone. They went to lunch and they are still deliberating. If they come back with a decision today, I will cover that tomorrow. So, and then if the judge, I'm pretty sure the judge is going to say something good. So I will probably cover the rest of this sentencing tomorrow as well. So we're going to do kind of a Saturday, just we're gonna talk about it all, and also Daybell. So I'm also going to see some things to cover from Chad Daybell's verdict. Justice for Tammy, Tylee, and JJ. I was extremely glad that the jury saw through all of that, and the jury did convict him. My heart is with the families, and I truly wish everybody the best moving forward. I truly I didn't make this channel for this. When I first made the channel, I thought it was going to be psychology education videos just like that. But instead, what I do is we get the psychology education in the midst of the court trial, in the midst of kind of the court information. And so I thank y'all for being here with me, and I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. Eastern.